Welcome to Bite Size Legal, where we tackle legal issues one bite at a time. My name is Drew Jenkins, and I'm an attorney licensed in Georgia and Alabama. And today, we're taking a quick bite out of limited partnerships. We're continuing our series on starting your business to ring in the new year. We've already covered sole proprietorships and general partnerships. And this next one is the next evolution in business. Long before corporations were available to regular people, and many centuries before LLCs were invented or limited liability partnerships, there needed to be a way for partners to enter into business and sort of offload some of that risk to one of the other partners. Because if we remember last week, the downside to a general partnership is that all of the partners have unlimited liability, meaning if one of the other general partners makes a decision that you disagree with, and it costs the company money, unfortunately, that can come back to you personally. And so the law developed this thing called a limited partnership. The easiest way to think about it is a typical investment, right? So your founder will run the company, and the investor simply puts money in, and they might be apprised of what's going on quarterly or annually, just to make sure that the big picture, that their funds are still being spent appropriately. But the day-to-day management is handled by the founder, or what we call the general partner. And the investor, who doesn't actually run the company, we want them to have sort of a limited liability. If something goes wrong, since they were not the ones making the day-to-day decisions, we don't want them to be held responsible. And so this entity is called a limited partnership. And essentially it creates two classes of owners. The first class are the general partners. And just like in the general partnership, the general partner class makes all the decisions for the company and runs the day-to-day operations. The second class, or what I'll call the investors, are the limited partners. They put money in, and as I said, there may be a quarterly or an annual meeting at which they make sure that the purposes of their money are being followed, right? You wouldn't want to put money into a company believing it's going to do one thing, only to find out it's doing something else, right? So you do have sort of the ability to set the direction of the ship, but you don't have the ability to actually steer the ship day to day. And as a limited partner, you must be careful. In order for you to still be limited in your losses in case the business goes south, you cannot be involved in the day-to-day operations of the business. So this is a pretty important distinction to make, is when you're setting up a limited partnership, be aware that there are two classes of ownership. The general partner, who will make day-to-day decisions, and the limited partner, who will invest funds, but for the most part be hands-off. If for some reason a limited partner becomes too involved in the actual running of the company, then the law will treat them as a general partner. And at that point, instead of their losses being limited to what they had invested, like all general partners, they have unlimited liability for the debts of the company. Now, why would you create a limited partnership? Well, a long time ago, you didn't have much of a choice. Again, unless you were a large entity, corporations were not available, and LLCs, as I said, wouldn't come around for a long time. So the limited partnership was an easy way for people who wanted to start businesses to receive funds from people who thought it was a good business but had no desire to be in sort of a direct partnership with them. And so are limited partnerships still used today? And the answer is yes. They're actually fairly common still in real estate. And the reasons are that just like a general partnership, at least in Georgia and Alabama, there are no filing requirements. So you can go to your friends and say, hey, if you'll invest a certain amount of money, right, I will keep you up to date with what's happening, but just trust me with it, and you don't have to file anything. You are immediately in business. And even though you as the founder have unlimited liability, your partners, they're limited. If something goes wrong, well, they lost the money. No harm done. Well, assuming they didn't put in too much money. So in real estate, typically your general partner will already be a corporation or another limited liability entity. So their liability is already resolved, and it's just easier to raise funds without having to go through a lot of extra filings, paperwork, and your annual taxes and filings you have to give to the state government when you are some form of a limited liability entity, including corporations. So our big takeaways for today are limited partnerships are available where some of the partners simply want to contribute cash or funds or property and don't want to be involved in the day-to-day running. In addition, a limited partnership provides these investors with limited liability. Like a general partnership, there are no filing requirements, at least in Georgia and Alabama. You can simply go out and start business. And they are useful in real estate transactions where the parties have already taken care of their liability concerns, either through insurance or the investor itself already being a limited liability entity. Now, I have been getting some feedback from y'all, and I always look forward to it. I promise we will cover topics in the future, especially corporations. That will be a rather long one, as they can be rather complicated. But I look forward to hearing from you. So if you are watching on YouTube, please feel free to leave comments below. If you're watching in WeChat, feel free to leave in thread, and as you normally do, always feel free to reach out, either by phone call or email, and I look forward to seeing you next week.